Most people view lucid dreaming as the ultimate freedom, a world where you realize you're asleep and can suddenly fly. But even when you're aware, you're still confined. You are wandering through a pre-written environment, bounded by the invisible walls of your own neural architecture. In this state, you are a guest in a sandbox. You can interact with the objects around you, but you are still subject to the hidden rules of the simulation. You don't control the physics, you don't control the landscape, or the duration of the experience. In the late 90s, a Russian internet collective looked at the sandbox and saw an exploit. They called themselves the Dream Hackers, and they viewed the human subconscious not as a mystical realm, but as a rigid, hackable operating system. Their goal was to move from guest to master by achieving controlled dreams. This is the attempt to gain root access to the mind, allowing the dreamer to rewrite the underlying code of the dream itself while still inside it. Reaching that level requires abandoning passive meditation for a more aggressive, technical approach. To a dream hacker, the mind is a matrix of data, and taking control is a matter of finding the right system vulnerabilities. The breach begins with dream cartography. Instead of interpreting meaning, hackers focus on geography. Mapping zones like the lower city creates a spatial database. Cataloging locations forces the brain to trigger memory recall at familiar landmarks, turning chaotic sleep into a structured network. Once the network is mapped, the infiltration requires a conscious threat to stay active. As the body's physical sleep program begins to boot up, the hacker must keep a small piece of conscious code running in the background. To bridge the gap between waking and dreaming, they use an artificial interface. They visualize a localized hallway with 3 distinct glowing doors. This acts as a fixed mental coordinate that persists as the brain transitions into sleep. By mentally walking through one of these doors at the moment of sleep, the hacker boots their consciousness directly into the dream environment. This bypasses the normal loss of awareness, granting immediate developer mode access to the simulation. This method transforms the involuntary act of falling asleep into a calculated system entry, allowing the hacker to maintain high-level awareness from the first second of the dream. But the mind is a self-protecting system. When it detects an active conscious presence in the deep sleep layers, it deploys security protocols to neutralize the intruder. The hackers identified these defense subroutines as sniffers. These are internal agents of the matrix designed to hunt the dreamer and drain their focus. Sniffers use fear or sudden physical shock to provoke a system reboot. By generating a nightmare or a sensation of pain, the mind forces the dreamer to wake up, successfully terminating the hack. If the sniffers fail, the brain relies on passive background code called default initializers. These are subtle programs that constantly try to distract the user, wiping their awareness and restoring the normal, unguided sleep state. External technology cannot bypass these biological firewalls. To stay inside the system, a hacker has to rely on a different kind of software, one built out of ancient mental disciplines. To maintain their connection, hackers use a state of awareness called Rigpa. It's an ancient countermeasure borrowed from the traditions of dream yoga. Rigpa is a state of pure, unbroken attention. In the dream world, this focus acts as an anchor, preventing the environment from shifting or dissolving when the mind's security programs attempt a wipe. To stabilize the physics of the dream, hackers perform physical tasks like rubbing their virtual hands together or lifting objects. This constant sensory input creates a high-definition link between the dreamer and the simulation. By sustaining this state, the hacker slips past the sniffers and stabilizes the environment. They have achieved root access, the ability to remain fully conscious while the subconscious is wide open. In this state, the dream environment becomes a terminal for data retrieval. Hackers interact with inorganic beings, or ENIOs. Rather than treating them as spirits, hackers view these entities as data servers, visual shells representing locked information. Navigating these complex data structures begins to bridge the gap between subconscious processing and waking awareness. By training the mind to handle high-definition data while asleep, the dreamer is effectively expanding their brain's information exchange capacity. This leads to recapitulation, the process of system optimization. Past traumas act as unclosed background programs, draining cognitive resources. Confronting the memory sniffers closes these tasks, freeing up processing power for the waking state. This literally increases daily focus and operational memory. This hack treats the barrier between dreaming and waking as a simple perceptive filter. By optimizing the system at night, the hacker is attempting to increase the overall performance of the machine when it's wide awake.